when Sean, who was navigating me, was in the right seat looking at radar, he said, "Hey, by the way, you might get into some a little bit larger hail on our way back south here because it's grown a little bit." And I said, "Oh, bring it on! Let's see what this storm can do." No more than maybe 10 seconds after I said that, you just hear honk of like an absolute massive hailstone, and I was like, "Okay, that's a little bit larger than what I was hoping to get into."
So every year since I guess 21 for me, I've done like a trip with a bunch of my friends from my undergraduate university. And so I mean, 2022, we do our annual trip at the end of May. That pattern was awful. It was just awful. We were just seeing blue sky after blue sky pretty much almost every day. And the first day we got something good in Colorado, but every other day since then, I think it was like 3 or 4 straight days of just blue sky. It was regime. It was just not optimal. Finally, after that, though, we had a wave to move through. So we can position ourselves that morning in Lubbock, and looked like a decent day. I think the risk on that day was a 2%.
It was a 2% tour, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like kind of like a 1 or 2 supercells, conditional, could be cat bus kind of day.
Yeah.
Like
I was going down there for structure. So I was in Norman at this time. I wasn't chasing with his group. And I think this was early June, right? So I think end of May. Well, either way, it was after school had gotten out. So I was staying a couple weeks in hopes of chasing some storms. But most of my friends that I chased with were already out of town. So I asked my friend Sean, who I'd never chased with before this, if he wanted to go down with me to Texas to go chase, just he and I. So we went down there in my car, which is a 2005 Volvo sedan, which isn't your typical chasing car that you see.
And here's something else that's shocking is someone's chasing in a Volvo. Storm chasing a Volvo. Yeah, okay.
Very low to the ground. And the reason why I took it chasing was I had taken it into the mechanic, and it was going to be several $1,000s of repairing mechanical stuff in order to fix it. And the car already had well over 200,000 miles on it. So I figured, if it gets some hail deads on it, so be it. It's pretty much the end of the car's life anyway. I'm never selling it. So take it down there. And I was hoping to get up close to some hail, because typically when you're chasing, the hail core is around the mesocyclone, which is where the tornado could be. So you never really want to be in hail, first of all, because it is usually big and could damage your vehicle, but also because your escape options out of there, one of the options is potentially a tornado. So usually you want to be on the southeast side of the cell where you have a good visual of the whole cell. But today, I was looking at the observations and looking at the models, and it was suggesting that there would only be about 50 0 to 1 storm relative helicity, which the number you usually like to see for tornadoes is at least 110, 120. So I was going into this chase thinking there's absolutely no way there's going to be any tornadoes today. Let's go get some good pictures, see a couple of hailstones, maybe get a couple dents on the car, and have a good time.
Yeah. So anyway, so before the storm even developed, we were I think we set up in Levelland. I think we set up in Levelland that day. And we're getting on toward like 4:30, 5 o'clock. Storms hadn't fired yet. And we remind you, it had been probably 4 days of chasing where we've seen no storms every day.
Yeah.
Like we tried and we saw like no storms every day. And so right now, my friend is so frustrated, and he like slams the car door and says, "We're never gonna see another storm again." And like he's like throwing stuff, and I'm just sitting here just like rolling my eyes and whatever. Anyway, so storms fire along the Texas-New Mexico border. We go toward them. Get this beautiful view of, we had the main supercell, and then we also had a left mover just to its south. That was moving. The two storms were going to merge, and if they had merge, we could be in business. What happened? So as the cell, right before the cells merged, we stopped, took a look, enjoyed taking pics of both the primary supercell and also the left mover, and ran into Andrew.
Yeah, so I pulled up to an intersection to just take some pictures of the cell because it was a pretty good view from that intersection.
Yep.
And as happens when you're chasing in random places, you just tend to run into other chasers that you know, which is feels like such a small world when you're out there at this random population 70 town, and then you run into like 4 different people that you recognize and 4 states away. But yeah, so I ran into Bradley and his crew, and so we were just chit chatting, watching the cell develop, and it was developing pretty quickly. I would say it was.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, after the initial updraft, there was definitely no cap this day. It was going up quickly, and while we were sitting there, we noticed that there was some small hail in it, and so I said to Sean and Bradley, I was like, this is a really good chance to go get into some hail before it gets really too big or before it potentially produces a tornado or anything like that. So we went west about 5 miles and then went north up into the hail core, typically on the northwest side of the cell, and went up through it and core punched it, got some quarter size, maybe even a little bit larger, couple in there, sprinkled in, and got to the other side, got out, took some pictures of some hail, and I was like, that was awesome, that was really cool. Definitely got a couple dents on the car, but nothing too big. Then, as we were messing around in the hail, taking some pictures, I was looking at radar, and it looked like the cell was wrapping up a little bit. There was some stronger velocity returns. There were definitely, there's a little bit more of a hook and an appendage down on the south side. So I said to Sean, hey, let's get back south, get back east on the same road that we were on previously to get out ahead of this, just in case it produces a tornado.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the left mover had merged with the parent supercell, and depending on how the merger went, you can have favorable merges or unfavorable merges. Started hooking, and we were like way far ahead of it at this point because we wanted to get out of this left mover's path. So we were, and the storm was not moving. Once it turned right and merged, it was moving.
It was stationary, yeah, pretty much.
So then we had to go back west.
So the problem with it being stationary was when we had come up the northern road and already gotten into the hail in the first place, typically, if you go north on a road, that cell is already going to have left that road by the time you go back to the south. But not in this case, because not only was it stationary, but it was expanding because it was a growing supercell. Yeah. So actually, the hail core had shifted to the west as we were going back south, so we were going to get back into some hail. Well, the hail when we went north was honestly not quite as big as what I had been hoping to see this day. So when Sean, who was navigating me, was in the right seat and looking at radar, he said, hey, by the way, you might get into some a little bit larger hail on our way back south here because it's grown a little bit. And I said, oh, bring it on, let's see what this storm can do. No more than maybe 10 seconds after I said that, you just hear tonk of like an absolute massive hailstone. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit larger than what I was hoping to get into. And then before I knew it, I mean, I had just slowed my car down to brake because again, I'm thinking it's going to keep moving to the east, move off. I can just sit here while the hail core moves off. Well, what instead was happening was after the merger, it RFD surged. So there was like the west-northwest side of the storm was basically moving west-southwest directly on top of us with a very strong push of wind. So there was not only hail in the downdraft, but wind-driven hail. Pretty much it felt like it was coming at a perfectly horizontal angle to the ground directly at the side of my car. So within 30 seconds, I was getting pelted with baseball-size hail. And this was not, I mean, not just a baseball here and there. I mean, it was like straight bam, 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 all over the car. Within a minute and a half, my entire car was totaled. I mean, it was like we had glass shards flying in the window. My windshield was actually the only glass piece of my car. I don't know how that was damaged during this, but I realized quickly that there was absolutely no way that we were going to wait this out. We were going to have to ditch back north. So I did a 3-point turn, which in a Volvo can take a while, and turned and zoomed back north as fast as I could. I was only in hail for under a minute and a half, and my entire car was totaled. It had put holes in my trunk, like the plastic pieces on my car. It literally had like holes this large in the trunk that I had to tape up. My headlights demolished, windshield demolished. What
I
else?
just remember because I mean, I wasn't really tempted to go west, but
Well, I figured I would warn Bradley.
So I get a call from him, and he goes, "Do not go west." And clunk, clunk. Like I literally hear the glass shattering.
I'm like yelling because it's so loud, and metal car getting pummeled with baseballs. And
Yeah, he's yelling, "Do not go west." And meanwhile, we're actually are going west at this point because we're trying to see the tornado.
yeah.
So,
So we get out of the hail, and I'm like, wow, that was awesome. But at the same time, I'm screwed. Like, this was not an ideal position to be in, because now the only road to get back in position for the tornado was that one that we were on. We can't take it. And really, our chase is pretty much over because I don't have a windshield. At this point, Sean happened to open up Twitter and see that there was a very, very photogenic, beautiful, dusty tornado exactly where we would have been, visible exactly on the same road that we had initially stopped and seen Bradley on. I mean, I think the picture that's etched into my brain is like that east-west road with the tornado just north of it, pretty much from the intersection I saw you at. And so I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. Because this season, yeah, like you said, it had been a week of no storms, and finally get a storm, finally get a tornado. We could have seen it, and instead I have a totaled car, and I can't see the tornado that's 1.5 miles to my southeast.
I mean, we got as close as we felt we could. The road network was okay. That part of the country is usually pretty good roads, but it's mostly dirt. So, and we see the dusty wedge for a little bit, but it was just the inflow was so strong, strongest inflow. Well, one of the strongest inflows I've ever had.
They were in a severe drought in this region during this time,
Yeah.
so there was no moisture in the ground. So the dust that was kicked up, I mean, I've never seen a dust storm like that. I mean, when I was driving back south and then east, there was so much dust that I couldn't even see the car in front of me. And it was like maybe 1 or 2 car lengths in front of me. I mean, I saw the hazards blink, and that was it. There was just like dust and tumbleweeds just flowing in front of my car. It was unbelievable.
It was crazy. I mean, so anyways, we see the tornado, and then we are like, it's sort of RFD surge, so we're like, all right, we need to get south, and then because we were in its path at this point, it wasn't moving very fast, but
it was moving a little bit south and east instead
Right,
of
so-
the typical northeast pattern that you might see.
So we had to go south and then like bolt east. So we did that. We got south and we got east on that main east-west road, and like Andrew said, dust blowing everywhere. I mean, I had tumbleweeds in my grill. I still find dust from that day in my car.
Yeah.
Like literally, like I think the other day I was filling up gas and I noticed there was dust around. I was like, I think that might be from Morton.
Yeah.
Like it was the most dusty my car has ever gotten. It was insane. And of course, this was at the time where it looked like the next day was going to be the best day of the week.
Yep.
And we weren't sure if you were going to be able to chase that day.
Yep. So I immediately got an appointment with a window replacement in Fort Worth. Spent the night in Fort Worth, went as soon as they opened, got it replaced, and headed back out west to do it all over again.
So it was a fun chase for me and chase for you.
It was a really, really cool experience that I will never want to do again, but it was fun.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure you take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell button so you're notified every time a video like this comes out. And while you're at it, why don't you check out chasepal.us. That way you're able to connect with us over all social media platforms.